This is the brief on AI Decoded. Think of this weekly show as your very own universal translator, taking all that intimidating tech speak and turning it into practical, everyday language for folks without a technical background. First, we need to look at who this is actually for, because their core mission is to make artificial intelligence finally click for non-technical users. Since we aren't all programmers, the show acts as a strict filter for information, which really makes you wonder, if AI systems are so profoundly complex, how accessible can they genuinely be for an absolute beginner? Well, second, we see how the two hosts answer that by aggressively filtering the noise, separating what's actually useful.
So imagine hiring a brilliant, world-class assistant. I mean, someone who can draft complex reports, analyze all your data, write these flawless client emails.
Right, the dream hire.
Exactly, the dream. But there is a catch. Every single night, you completely wipe their memory clean.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare.
Right. So every morning when they walk into the office, you got to sit them down and spend like 20 minutes re-explaining what your business actually does, who your clients are, what tone of voice you prefer, what the industry acronyms even mean.
Yeah, all before they can answer a single email.
Exactly. It would be completely exhausting.
Well, I mean, it would bring your operations to a standstill. You'd spend more time managing the assistant than you would, actually doing the work.
And the crazy thing is, that is exactly how most of us are using artificial intelligence right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, it really is.
So welcome, everyone, to today's deep dive. We're so glad you're here. We want to help you move past that beginner phase of AI today. Specifically, we're looking at a really fascinating source document on advanced Claude workflows, because this memory wipe issue, it's just a massive bottleneck.
It's huge because, you start using an AI, and for the first few weeks, it's just purely magical.
Oh, totally.
But pretty quickly, that magic kind of fades into this daily ritual of throat clearing. You find yourself typing out the exact same massive introductory paragraphs every single time you sit down to work.
Yeah, the frustration there is very real. And to move past it, I think we have to look at the underlying architecture of how these tools are actually built.
Right, exactly. Because standard chat interfaces, they're designed to be what we call stateless.
Stateless, right.
Yeah, stateless, which basically means every time you open a new chat window, you are starting from absolute zero.
Just a totally blank slate.
Yep. The AI has absolutely no memory of your previous conversations. It doesn't know what you did yesterday, and it doesn't know what you prefer today.
Which, I mean, logically, it has a purpose. Like, if I'm asking a random question at midnight about how to fix a leaky faucet, I really don't want that context bleeding into a highly technical, professional document I'm drafting the very next morning.
No, of course not. It provides a necessary clean slate. It guarantees privacy. It prevents that cross-contamination of ideas.
Right.
But here's the thing. What is a fantastic privacy feature for one-off tasks becomes this massive operational penalty for recurring work.
Oh, absolutely.
When you do the same type of work week in and week out, that stateless design, it just forces you to constantly reestablish the baseline.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because if standard chat is inherently designed to forget us, how do we, force it to remember?
Right.
And that brings us to the core architectural solution from the source material, which is projects.
Yes. Projects are a game changer here.
So a project is essentially this persistent workspace. It's a dedicated environment that saves your background context, so you literally never have to type out that introductory briefing ever again.
You're basically building a container. So instead of the AI starting from absolute zero every time you interact with it, it starts from a baseline of knowledge that you've permanently established for that specific container.
And it just stays there.
Exactly. Whatever context you put in there is automatically and invisibly injected into every new conversation you start within that project.
Now, I can already hear the objections because I'm putting myself in the shoes of you, the listener, right now. You're probably juggling a dozen things.
Oh, for sure.
And you hear, build a dedicated workspace. And it just sounds like extra administrative work. I mean, the whole point of using AI is to save time, not create more folders and set up tasks.
Right. Nobody wants more admin work.
Exactly. So how do we actually know when it's worth the effort to build a project versus just, asking a quick question in a regular chat?
Well, the source text gives us a really straightforward diagnostic for this. It's often called the next week rule.
The next week rule. Okay.
You just ask yourself one question. Will I use Claude for this exact same purpose again in the next week?
Oh, I like that. Keep it simple.
Right. If the answer is yes, you build a project. If it's a one-off experiment or like a quick lookup or you're just brainstorming some random idea.
Like leaky faucet.
Exactly, like the faucet. For those, you stick to the regular stateless chat.
Okay, let's ground this in reality. Think about a real estate agent using Claude for marketing support. The daily grind for an agent involves so much repetitive context.
Oh, an incredible amount.
Right, like they work in a specific geographic area, say the suburbs of Chicago. They specialize in a specific price range, they serve a particular demographic, and they have this very distinct, professional yet approachable brand tone.
Right. And if that agent is using standard chat every single Monday morning when they want to generate an Instagram caption for a new listing, they have to type all of that out.
Every single time.
Yep. I am a Chicago realtor. I sell homes around $600,000. Write a caption that's friendly but professional. I mean, they are doing all the heavy lifting just to get the AI to the starting line.
But with a project, all of that friction just completely disappears.
Yeah.
They set up a marketing content project once.
Just once.
Exactly. And now on Monday morning, they just open that workspace, drop in a few photos or specs of the house, and type draft the Instagram post.
And boom, the AI already knows it's in Chicago, it knows the price bracket, and it knows the exact tone to use.
It's amazing. And the same logic applies to, like, a small business owner drafting client emails. They have a consistent professional voice and baseline business context that, it doesn't change from Monday to Thursday.
Or consider a university student. They have the
Yeah.
same courses, the same academic level, the same learning preferences week after week.
Oh, yeah, a student is a great example.
Right. So setting up a project for the semester, it just eliminates that setup overhead entirely.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because knowing when to build a project is really only the first step. The actual engine of this entire system, and frankly where most people fall short when they try to build these, is what you actually put inside that workspace.
Yes, the contents are everything.
Specifically, we need to talk about the instructions.
Yeah, yes. The instructions. This is the persistent briefing document for the project.
Right.
It's the core set of rules the AI reads before every single interaction. And the absolute rule of thumb here, according to the text, is that vague instructions will inevitably lead to generic, mediocre output.
Okay, so let's dissect the difference between bad and good instructions, because I see people make this mistake constantly. Let's go back to our real estate agent.
Okay.
A terrible instruction would be putting something like, I'm a real estate agent and my clients are families into the project settings.
Yeah, I mean, it is technically a true statement, but it gives the AI virtually nothing to work with regarding tone or boundaries or knowledge retrieval.
It's just too broad.
Way too broad. You have to remember, an AI's default state is essentially an average of the entire internet. It knows everything, but it assumes nothing about you specifically.
Right, so we have to carve away all those irrelevant possibilities. So a highly effective, specific instruction would look more like this. My clients are primarily Latin American families buying their first home in the United States who need information presented warmly and without assuming prior familiarity with how American real estate transactions work.
What's fascinating here is that when you feed an instruction like that into the system, you aren't just being descriptive, you're actually engaging with the underlying mechanics of how the AI processes language.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, in the architecture of the AI, the text you put into the project instructions acts as what's called a system prompt.
Okay, let's unpack what a system prompt actually is, because that sounds highly technical, but it's really crucial to understand why this actually works.
Yeah, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Think of the AI's processing like a hierarchy of importance.
Okay, a hierarchy.
Right. So the vast ocean of data it was trained on, that's at the bottom. Your daily chat messages, those are in the middle. But a system prompt that sits at the absolute top of the hierarchy.
Ah, so it overrides the other stuff.
Exactly. It carries an enormous amount of mathematical weight. It acts as an unbreakable filter.
Unbreakable.
Right. So when you put that specific instruction about Latin American first-time homebuyers into the system prompt, you are mathematically forcing the AI to prioritize warmth, clarity, and foundational explanations over everything else it knows about real estate.
Wow. So it fundamentally alters the AI's default personality for that specific workspace.
Completely.
I mean, it's the difference between receiving a generic template letter and a highly customized client experience.
Okay.
And you can apply this extreme specificity to any field.
Yeah, absolutely any field.
Like, think about someone managing diabetes who uses Claude for meal planning. if they put in their instructions that every single recipe must be strictly low glycemic.
Yes, that's a great example from the text.
Right. The system prompt weighting ensures the AI will never casually suggest adding, a tablespoon of honey or maple syrup to a dressing.
Or take the student who specifies in their instructions that they comprehend concepts best through practical, real-world examples rather than dry, theoretical definitions.
Oh, I wish I had that in college.
Right. You are establishing standing rules. And a good diagnostic here is to just monitor your own frustration.
What do you mean?
Well, if you constantly find yourself telling the AI in a chat window, hey, make it less jargon heavy, or can you put this in bullet points, you're operating inefficiently.
Because you're repeating yourself.
Exactly. Those preferences belong in the project instructions, not in your daily prompts.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And beyond just text instructions, there's another layer to projects that completely changes the reliability of the tool, which is uploading reference documents directly into the workspace.
Yes. Documents are huge. This is where we bridge the gap between an AI that sounds smart and an AI that is actually factually accurate for your specific business.
So, brain expansion, basically. If you're that student, you upload your actual course syllabi. If you're a business owner, you upload your current pricing menu or your employee handbook, your services guide, whatever.
Let's explain why that is so vital, though. Because when an AI doesn't know a specific detail, say the exact cost of your premium consulting package, it has a tendency to hallucinate.
Right, the dreaded AI hallucinations.
Yeah, it will just invent a number that sounds plausible based on average market rates it read on the internet somewhere.
Which means you then have to spend time proofreading and heavily editing everything it writes just to make sure it didn't promise a client a service for $50 that actually costs $500.
Exactly. But when you upload that pricing menu into the project, the AI creates what's called a vector database of your specific facts.
Okay, a vector database.
Yeah, it grounds its output in your reality. So when you ask it to draft a proposal, it doesn't guess. It searches your uploaded document, retrieves the exact price, and places it right into the text.
So it transitions the AI from like a creative brainstorming tool into a totally reliable operational asset.
Precisely. It becomes reliable.
Okay, so projects solve a massive foundational problem. They solve the problem of the AI knowing who you are, what your context is, what facts govern your world.
All right.
But there is a totally different problem we haven't even touched on yet.
Yeah.
What about how you want a specific job done? Because knowing who I am doesn't mean the AI knows how to execute a highly technical task.
No, it doesn't. And that requires a shift from context to methodology. And that's where the concept of skills comes into play.
Okay, skills. I think the best way to visualize this is through an analogy. If setting up a project is like handing Claude your company handbook and a list of your clients, applying a skill is like sending Claude to an intensive week-long masterclass for one very specific job title.
That is a perfect analogy. A skill provides specialized capability. Technically speaking, a skill is really just a specialized instruction template.
It's a text file, right?
Yeah, exactly. A finely tuned text file. And it transforms the AI from a generally helpful assistant into a hyper-specialized domain expert. So instead of relying on the AI's generalized understanding of how to do something, you inject a proven expert methodology.
Let's look at how this plays out in marketing, because this is where a lot of people just accept really mediocre AI output.
Oh, constantly.
People will go into a chat and say, write a social media caption for this new product, and they get back something filled with like rocket ship emojis and super generic hype.
Right, because the AI is just averaging how millions of other people write captions, and most people write terrible captions.
Exactly. But if you apply a social media skill, you are giving it a framework. The skill explicitly instructs the AI to use, for example, the hook body call to action structure.
Right.
It literally forces the AI to start with a counterintuitive statement, to grab attention, follow up with concise value propositions, and end with a single clear directive for the reader.
The contrast is even more apparent with something highly technical, though, like search engine optimization.
Oh, SEO is the absolute perfect example for this. Because if you give a beginner an AI, they will write a terrible prompt like, write a blog post about plumbing and use the keyword affordable plumbing 15 times.
Yeah, which results in a completely unreadable, keyword-stuffed article.
Totally unreadable.
And modern search engines like Google, they will actively penalize that and bury it in the search rankings. It's an amateur approach that actually harms the business.
But an SEO skill completely overrides that amateur approach. The skill is this complex set of instructions that tells the AI, hey, when asked to optimize for a keyword, do not just repeat it.
Right.
Instead, it says integrate the term naturally. Utilize latent semantic indexing, meaning use related concepts and vocabulary that prove deep subject matter expertise. Structure the headers appropriately for web crawlers.
And the beauty of it is you don't need to know what latent semantic indexing even is.
Exactly.
The skill knows. You just paste that skill into your workspace, and suddenly your AI is applying advanced SEO methodologies to your blog posts automatically.
It's wild. And the range of these skills mentioned in the text is incredible. There are brand voice analysis skills that will actually read your past written work, analyze your sentence structure and vocabulary, and build a reusable style guide so everything the AI writes sounds exactly like you.
Moving over to the business side, the methodologies are just as rigorous. Like, think about a standard AI meeting summarizer. It will often just give you a chronological wall of text of everything that was said.
Which is barely more useful than reading the transcript itself.
Exactly. It doesn't really save you time. But a specialized meeting summarizer skill acts like an executive chief of staff.
Oh, I love that.
It ignores the small talk. It explicitly scans the transcript to flag definitive decisions made, extracts action items, assigns those items to the specific people mentioned, and it even outlines unresolved bottlenecks.
That is so powerful. There are also business proposal writing skills that automatically structure documents with executive summaries, define scope sections, risk mitigation clauses.
Yep.
There are professional email responder skills for, like, high-stakes communications. They actually analyze the incoming email for emotional tone before drafting a measured, de-escalating response.
That's incredibly useful for customer service.
Oh, totally. There are even client communication coach skills that don't write the email for you at all.
Oh.
Yeah, instead, they critique your draft message, pointing out where you sound defensive or maybe unclear before you actually hit send.
Wow. Okay, so we have these two distinct pillars here. We have projects, which hold our persistent context and factual documents.
Right.
And we have skills, which are these hyper-specific expert methodologies for individual tasks.
So what does this all mean when we put it together?
Well, this is where the text reveals the ultimate power workflow, which is combining the two.
Combining them.
Yes. This is where we see the compounding value truly unlock. The practical application is straightforward but profound. You take the text of that professional email responder skill, for example, and you paste it directly into the persistent instructions of your client communications project.
Okay, wait, so what happens when you do that? You're basically creating an entirely new entity.
Exactly. You've created a version of the AI that already deeply understands your specific business, your pricing, your tone, and your clients.
Because of the project.
Right. And simultaneously possesses the precise professional methodology to execute the task perfectly every single time you open that workspace.
Because of the skill.
You got it. And it happens automatically from the very first keystroke of the session. You don't have to spend 10 minutes prompting it to remember your business constraints.
And you don't have to prompt it on how to properly structure a professional response either.
Right. You simply say, draft a reply to Sarah's question about the Q3 timeline, and the AI seamlessly merges your internal context with its expert framework to execute the task.
That is the magic right there. But getting to that level of seamless execution, it really requires a mindset shift in how we evaluate our interactions with AI.
It really does.
Let's say you build this infrastructure. You set up your project, you paste in your skill, you upload your documents, and you finally generate your first real piece of work. The immediate instinct is to look at the output and ask, is this good?
Which, is a natural instinct, but it's an evaluative question. And evaluating output as simply good or bad is usually the wrong approach when you're trying to build reliable infrastructure.
So what should we be doing instead?
Instead, you should be asking diagnostic questions. You need to look at the output and ask, did Claude understand my context accurately?
Did it respect the boundaries I set?
Exactly. Did it pull the right price from the document? Did it follow the methodology of the skill?
And if the answer is no, our natural instinct is to go right into the chat window and say, no, fix this, the price is wrong, and you sound way too formal.
And that instinct is exactly what keeps people trapped in the beginner phase.
Wow.
That is the old stateless way of thinking.
Right, because if you correct it in the chat window, the AI will fix the current document. But tomorrow, it's just going to make the exact same mistake again.
Yep. Your effort evaporates the exact moment you close the tab.
So to transition to an advanced workflow, you have to change where you place your corrections.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is a profound shift. If you notice the AI is misunderstanding your tone or pulling the wrong context, You don't fight with it in the chat.
Right.
You take that correction, you open your project instructions, and you add a new rule. You update the permanent system prompt.
That is how your time investment actually compounds. You're no longer just reacting to a tool. You're actively engineering a persistent professional environment.
Every single time you tweak those instructions to be slightly more accurate to your daily reality, you're putting a permanent guardrail in place.
So it never messes up that specific way again.
Exactly. You are guaranteeing that you will never have to spend time making that specific correction ever again. The system just gets incrementally smarter and faster and tailored entirely to you.
It's an investment in your future time. It really protects you from the friction of repetitive setup.
It really does.
So, to bring this all together and recap the journey for everyone listening, the first critical step is to stop accepting the daily amnesia of regular chat for your recurring work.
Yes. Please stop.
Look at your tasks. If you're going to do the exact same type of work next week, you need to build a project.
Second, you must leverage the mathematical power of extreme specificity. Do not rely on vague instructions. Define your exact boundaries and, upload your actual business documents so the AI is factually grounded and won't hallucinate those generic answers.
And finally, do not rely on the AI's generalist average knowledge of how to do a job. Upgrade its capabilities by integrating specialized skills directly into your project instructions, giving it expert frameworks for specific tasks. When you do all these things, you finally stop starting from scratch every single morning.
We've explored how to seamlessly upload your context, your voice, and your specific methodologies into this persistent environment. And honestly, it raises a fascinating question for you to mull over.
What's that?
Well, as you refine these projects and skills week after week, tweaking the instructions so they become more and more perfectly aligned with exactly how you think and work,
Yeah.
at what point does this stop being an assistant and start becoming your digital twin?
Oh, wow.
And if your AI twin can execute your specific workflows that perfectly, how does that change what you choose to do with your own time?
That is an incredible thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. I encourage you to go take a hard look at your weekly workflows, stop wiping your assistant's memory every single night, and go build your first project so you can start experiencing that compound interest of time for yourself. We will catch you on the next one.
This is The Brief on the AI Decoded podcast. AI Decoded is a weekly show that provides actionable tech advice, and today we are looking at their broadcasting footprint and upcoming programming. Keeping up with AI tools feels kind of like navigating this dense, totally unpredictable jungle, which is exactly why finding a reliable guide is absolutely crucial. First, where do you find that guide? Well, listeners can expect a new episode every single week, accessible across all major platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So why